Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mythic Banter. I'm back from Gamescom. I have no idea what the hell just happened last week because basically I was at Gamescom and then I came back and, I bring a lot of footage and stuff that I want to work on. Started working on that, and now it's Friday, and I was like, time is just gone.
Yep.
It's just disappeared. How you doing, Acolyte?
I
Fill
am
me
good,
in.
bro.
What's been happening?
I am good. Thank you so much for being back, bro. We're happy to have you back. The Mythic Banter is back. Crowd's going wild.
We need like those MLG air horns.
Yeah, we need to like make a crowd. Everyone is so happy that we are finally back.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always,
I can already see her actually editing like crickets. Because she's still mad about me criticizing the German water in the previous episode. She's like, I'll give you a crowd. Got your crowd right here.
I mean, she could have her fun with the editing, right?
Exactly.
But no, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what episode it is of Mythic Banter, so we're just going to say...
It's not important.
Yeah, we're just going to say it's the next episode.
It's the next, yeah.
Yeah, it's the new episode. But yeah, last week we couldn't do it because Rurikhan was gallivanting all over Germany, hanging out with his favorite...
What is the meaning of gallivanting?
Gallivant means you were wasting time in Germany, basically.
Oh, gallivant. Is that what that means?
I'm sure it has a different meaning, but it is sort of like just...
Like, look at this. Gerund or present participle gallivanting, go around from one place to another in the pursuit of pleasure or entertainment.
Exactly.
That's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah. Rurikhan was just, there for some entertainment. Obviously dissed all of our Western games and hung out with his favorite Eastern developers because he's a betrayer to our side.
It is what it is. It is what it is. No, it's like it is funny because most of the games that I end up playing nowadays are more Japanese games than Western games because I just like them more. So, although it wasn't even all Japanese games. Like I think that Crimson Desert is like Korean devs, and I think that Kazan and what's the other one? It was Kazan and Phantom Blade Zero. I think those are Chinese devs, if I'm not mistaken. But they're all Eastern games, for sure.
Me, I'm just a Western gamer. I play some Western games.
Yeah.
The only Eastern game I think I've ever played would be Final Fantasy XIV and Elden Ring.
No, you played Dragon's Dogma 2.
Oh yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2. So I've played 3 Eastern games in my life.
There you go.
And all of them really, really fun. But
just wait until you play Monster Hunter.
Hey, but bro, with things like the Acolyte and Concord and Dustborn and I mean the Western gaming industry, like the Western gaming scene is heating up.
It's booming.
Yeah.
No, dude, it's booming, just not in a good way. It's booming in the bad way.
It's not booming, it's kaboom. It's more
something like that.
It's not the good one. But it is what it is. All right, Rurikhan, tell us about your Gamescom trip, because I know already that you only did Monster Hunter stuff for the most part, or at least most of your time. Pretty much.
Yeah. So what ends up happening in my Gamescom trip is my flight gets delayed, and therefore I'm having to struggle with because I was going out in the same day that opening night live happens, which is it's almost, how Summer Games Fest has that big presentation that Jeff Keighley does?
I watched the opening night live. Yeah. It was pretty good.
He does one of those. He does one of those for Gamescom as well. Yeah. And I was planning on streaming that, and my flight gets delayed 3 hours. And I had a 2-hour window to get from the airport to my hotel and set up for stream. It's like, that time's gone. There was actually a point at which they were saying on the airplane, like, we may have to disembark this flight. It's like, bro, you ain't disembarking shit, okay? You duct taped that cargo door. They couldn't close the cargo door on the plane. I was like, you duct taped that crap and you send us flying, okay, bro? I gotta be in Cologne, all right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be in Portugal right now, dude. It's like, Portugal is a small place, so there's like one direct flight to Cologne. One.
Yeah, but I mean,
which is the one that I was on.
Europe, bro. You could just walk to Germany, and it would be like maybe like an hour or so.
Oh,
fuck, man.
Yeah, sure, an hour. Yeah. I'll be right there. No, it's not that simple. You only have to go through like Spain and France. It's not a big
tiny
deal.
little countries. What's the problem?
Yeah. Man lives over there in Africa.
Yep.
Like he's got a whole continent just to himself. And all of a sudden, yeah, I see how it is.
But I just, on the opening night live, I thought there were a couple of pretty decent games announced on opening night live. Also a bunch of stinkers. Like, this was not it. You know, if the Xbox game show was like the peak of what video game announcements should look like, this was like bog standard bullshit.
It was like very stretched out.
Yeah,
like, the only thing that I can even properly remember from opening night live was Monster Hunter.
But dude,
that's it.
The problem is, and this is Jeff Keighley, it's just happening more and more often now. Like even his summer game face bullshit and his end of the year game face bullshit, it's the same stuff. It's like the shows just keep getting longer. You know, when the first ever show was like 2 hours. Now it's like over 3 hours, and they're talking to different devs, and they're doing this and they're doing that. It's like, bro.
This one was only 2 hours, but it had like a 45-minute pre-show, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it had a 45-minute, which was technically part of it, but not quite part of it. But even that, dude, it just feels too much. Like, you compare that to what Xbox did, right, with their game showcase. It was game, right? Just
the thing is,
here's what we're bringing.
We need to reach a consensus as to what we want as a community for a game show, because the problem is, if you just want trailers, then you don't need a stage host. You can just glue those trailers together in a video edit, and boom, that's the show, and you don't need anything there.
I think I speak for all. Now, I get it. They want to sort of showcase indie developers, and, you know, so they want to give them the stage as well. But here's the thing, boys. Even though the indie gaming scene is hot as fire, most people don't give a shit about the developer of games until they've made a couple of good games. You know, like Blizzard, for example, or Bandai Namco, or Capcom. You know, they have a track record of bringing out good games. Then we start to give a shit about the stuff that their developers have to say. But I'm going to be honest with you. Manor brilliant game. Love that game. Can't get enough of that game. Do I give two shits about what that developer has to say? No, because he's only made the one good game. I don't even know who he is, quite frankly. And I don't care. He made a good game. I bought it. I supported him. My problem is that the people that they bring on stage is oftentimes people I've never heard about. Like, I have no idea who these people are. And they're out there talking about a game that I don't even know if I would like. So I'm just sitting there going, man, can we get back to like the good games? Like, I don't know what this is. Why are you talking about this game as if it matters? You know, so I feel like we should probably have two shows. Like what Asmongold and them do, right? They do this indie show where it's all about indie games. So there you kind of expect to see indie developers because it's literally just about indie developers. I think they should do that with Game Fest. Have a night where you celebrate.
One. Yeah,
where you celebrate.
You see, the problem. The problem was, if you actually look at those live streams, like nobody is watching them.
Yeah, that's also true.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but it's because it's boring.
I've noticed that. I was researching some of those ahead of Summer Game Fest, and I was just like, oh man, I wonder if this will be interesting. Then I looked at like, what did they do the previous year? And there was like no views whatsoever. Nobody's watching this. And I watched through it and I was like, yeah, I understand why. It's like, I understand why, but it's one of those things where I look at it from my personal taste and I was like, these presentations is not something that I personally have a taste for.
Yeah.
But it's like, I would still like to see them get more views because it would mean, but there's an audience here, clearly, because there's views.
Yeah.
The problem is there's not even that many views, which
I do have to,
sucks.
I mean,
you know?
On that, we do have to just acknowledge that I think most of their views come from co-streaming. I mean, Asmongold watches that. It's like 200,000 people watching. You have a bunch of other content creators. You probably have collectively 2, 3, 4, maybe even 10 million people watching it together.
Yeah.
So you do have that. But even then, one of the main complaints I've had and I've heard from people is it's
like,
boring.
Listen, when I'm talking about these other streams, when I say that they're not getting many views, I'm talking like sub 1,000.
That is rough, no. That is rough.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, even with the co-streams and stuff, I don't know. And again, I understand that people hear me say these things and they're like, oh, Rurikhan doesn't want to support indie devs. You're completely wrong. I want them to be successful, but they need to figure out a show format that works for them, because clearly the format that they have right now isn't working.
Well,
and I don't know what the format is. I don't know what the situation is. But in regards to like taking us back to opening night live, I didn't see a big chunk of it because I was moving from the airport back to my room. I actually had a friend of mine host the stream in my channel, and then I jumped in midway.
Okay, cool.
And what I did watch of it, it was again, it did feel like you said, it was maybe too long. There was a lot of games there that, you know, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if maybe you should have made this a little bit tighter, because pretty much most of the people that I've spoken to, and it is important to mention, most of the people that I speak to are mostly Monster Hunter fans, but most of the stuff that they could remember was Monster Hunter. It's like, oh yeah, it was Monster Hunter. I mean, as a matter of fact, Gamescom almost felt like the Monster Hunter show. To give you an idea, in the first day that I get there and I get to the Capcom booth, there's just a massive line dividing the whole hall. Like there's a whole hall, but Capcom only has like one of the last sections, but it's a pretty big booth, right? But it's one of the last sections of the hall is Capcom. But basically, the whole hall has a line from Capcom's booth almost all the way to the entrance of the hall.
Wow.
Like, it was so bad that the following days they had to like wrap the line around their booth, because otherwise people couldn't circulate the hall for the other people that were there.
Holy crap, bro. The Monster Hunter.
It was kind of like you entered Hall 9 and it's like, welcome to Monster Hunter, motherfucker. You're here to see some Monster Hunter, aren't you? Yes, you are. Well, join the queue, brother.
Maybe I should give Monster Hunter Wilds a go then, if it's that successful.
You have no idea. It was absolutely insane. Like, most people were just queuing for Monster Hunter. Like, the lines at the beginning of the day, people would be lining up in there and the wait times were like 10 hours.
Wow.
10 hours.
Holy crap.
And I was like, bro, and these people would just like, yep, I'm going to wait here 10 hours to play 30 minutes of Monster Hunter. And I was like, that's really cool to see.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing that.
No.
I could have skipped the queue, and I ended up not doing it because I was like, bro, this be so fucking bad if I just skip the queue and some poor guy that's been waiting for 10 hours like doesn't get to play. It's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Screw that.
I mean, fundamentally, just to talk about the opening night live thing one final time. I mean, what I took away from that was Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty coming out. Its campaign looks actually pretty decent. It looks pretty fun. So I might play it literally just for the campaign because I don't give a crap about it.
You have that on Game Pass. Game Pass.
Yeah. It's not part of the Game Pass, bro. But yeah, fundamentally, I do think they need to change the format. Like, if you are going to showcase indies, literally just showcase the trailer, move on, right? Just do a massive section of just like all of the indie trailers and then get back to like the bigger announcements. But I also think the other problem that they're running into nowadays is with Microsoft becoming the conglomerate that it is and Microsoft having its own showcase, most of the games that Microsoft could announce, Microsoft is going to choose to announce first on their own showcase, right? So by the time it comes to Gamescom, it's sort of like old news at that point. You're not really seeing much new.
I even have a suspicion, and this is not official confirmation, by the way, but I do have a suspicion that there's potential for Capcom to actually reveal the release date of Monster Hunter Wilds in their own thing.
Yep.
They might just do their own show. Because I was expecting to see the release date at Gamescom, because that would make sense, because it's releasing next year, and it's kind of, with the Japanese games, most of the time they'll do end of fiscal year, which means before the end of March.
Yeah.
And that is like the biggest prediction right now for the release date. It should be before the end of March. But the fact that they didn't announce it at Gamescom, which is in August, makes it seem like, I mean, isn't it going to be too late for them to announce the release date at around the Game Awards, which would be the next big thing?
And that's in December only.
So, yeah, that's in December. So it's like you're going to announce a release date 3 months with a 3-month window. It's possible, but I almost feel like Capcom might just be like, no. We're going to do our own show at some point, and between now and then, and that's where we're going to announce the release date for Monster Hunter Wilds, which I think would be really cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's plenty of rumors flying around about some Resident Evil remakes, maybe. There's a bunch of stuff that Capcom could probably announce on their own, so I would not be surprised. But all right, so
and there's a lot of people that also think that Tokyo Game Show is where they would announce it, and I really don't think so, because it's like ever since Monster Hunter became a more worldwide thing, because Monster Hunter used to be very focused Japan and then the West. With Monster Hunter World, it became much more of a a global thing. It just doesn't make sense to announce the release date on an Eastern-themed event, in my opinion.
Well, it depends on the Eastern-themed event and what it's now going to be going for, right? Because we've already discussed...
Yeah, but it's Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah. So... We've already discussed all of these developers in the East. Just the last show we had, we were talking about these developers realizing, wait a second, there's like a massive Western audience for our games that love our games. Why are we just trying to market our games to our people where we could be marketing it to the rest of the world, right? So it's very possible that Tokyo Game Show also sort of goes, hey, let's try and open it up to the Western audience. Let's see if the Western audience would enjoy it.
So here's one of the coolest things that I learned at Gamescom, because I never got to actually interact with the actual Japanese developers of Monster Hunter. This was the first time. And I got there Wednesday, and when I was going towards the hall, it was me and the Monster Hunter community manager who were heading towards the hall, and we spot the game director for Monster Hunter Wilds coming up, and I was like, "Oh, Takuda-san, can I get a picture?" And as he's approaching, I realized that he recognized me as like Rurikhan, Gunlance, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, that's awesome, so, bro.
I get a picture with him, and then he wants a picture with me too, and I was just like super excited about that stuff. And I know that people that have been listening to me talk on podcasts, like they've heard this story 50 times, and tell you what, you're gonna hear it 50 times more because I fucking love it.
Bro, it's the height of any gamer, right? Any gamer that is in a niche, a specific niche, when the lead developer knows who you are. Dude, that's like recognize me senpai, you know? It's like, bro, dude. I'm being recognized here for my hard work.
But the really cool thing was, right, so interacting with the Japanese developers, they don't really speak English, so they need to have their translators around. But one of the things that I've noticed is that, you know how it seems like a lot of times when you're on these shows, I don't know if you've been to a lot of gaming conventions, but it seems like a lot of the times the developers are kind of like shielded from the general audience, right? Because they don't want something weird to happen. Bro, the Monster Hunter lead developers, the three main guys, which is for Monster Hunter Wilds, which is Ryozo Tsujimoto, who is also like one of the big guys at Capcom.
Yeah.
But like he's the producer for Monster Hunter Wilds, and then Kaname Fujioka and Yuya Tokuda, who is the game director. They were just hanging out at the booth, like checking to see if the fans wanted to take pictures, signing stuff and whatnot. Every single time they had free time, they just go down to the booth, hang out with the fans, no problems. There was all of these crazy things happening around there, and they were just chilling out all the time. And I was, bro, this is not normal. And then they straight up play the game on stage, like a super early version of the game, which would break and whatnot. But it's like, no, it's live. It's not like that Ubisoft shit that tends to happen where like, oh yeah, let us play a video with this fake gamer commentary where people saying stuff like, contact left. Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, okay. Oh man, this new weapon is so cool. Like, you know, shit that nobody actually ever says when they're playing video games, right? No, developers were just straight there playing the game on stage. You know?
Yeah, but I mean,
it's like really cool to see.
I think it goes to, and you see this from even Yoshi P, right, with Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
And you see that with Miyazaki as well from Elden Ring. It's that the Eastern developers have a respect for their player base, right? And as a result of that, it also leads to the player base having a phenomenal amount of respect for them. What you see very often in the West, and there are some companies that's genuinely trying to change that now, Blizzard being one of them. We're going to be talking about The War Within in a bit. That's really trying to sort of mend the fences between them and the gamers. But when you look at a lot of Western developers, bro, they're out on Twitter criticizing the gamers, right? Telling the gamers they're shit, telling the gamers they don't want them. Concord's lead developer for Concord, and actually, no, I'm lying. The lead developer for Dustborn came out, and when he was asked, what do you do with the backlash against the game? He was like, I have nothing to say to talentless hacks that don't know anything about video game design. And it's like, bruh.
That's always a good thing.
I know more than you. I have never released a game that only managed to get 86 people to play the fucking game. So
no, listen. I think it's always a good idea when you start shitting on your audience. I think that's exactly the way to go. That always goes well when you just go up to your audience and like, you know what? Fuck you guys. You guys are all talentless. You guys have no. It's like, yeah, the people that are propping you up, go ahead, shit on them. See how that works out for you. I hear that's really good.
It's that meme. It's that meme from Dodgeball, right? That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that works out.
Exactly.
Because it never works, but they keep shitting on the gamers. So you don't see this.
I don't understand.
Right?
Yeah, I don't understand where people start getting that level of arrogance of like, oh no, I know better than you. You're this and that and the other. It's like, oh, all right. It's like,
yeah,
like the developers were super respectful to everyone. They were just like hanging out all the free time that they had. They spent it with the fans, taking pictures and all that stuff. Like at one point, the game director Thursday morning, the booth wasn't even on yet. Like the lights weren't even on. Wow. And the game director was there just looking at the massive queue. People didn't even know it was him.
Wow.
Most of the people that were there, but he was just like there super early in the morning, like looking at the queue with the biggest smile on his face, just like super happy of how many people turned up to play his game.
Of course, man.
Right? That's just, it's a completely different thing than what we tend to get in the West nowadays, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really refreshing to see that type of stuff. So, Monster Hunter Wilds, I played it.
Yeah, what's your impression?
You don't care that much.
What do
you don't care that much about it?
Feel about it?
I absolutely love it. It's amazing. It feels like the natural evolution of Monster Hunter World, because Monster Hunter went through this thing where they released World, which was kind of like the next step in the franchise, and then they released a portable game for the Switch, because Monster Hunter, you know, one of the biggest successes that it had in its infancy was in the portable system, was on PlayStation Portable with Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. And so they want to, you know, still service that audience, which is why they made Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak, which initially were Switch exclusives.
Wow.
But, you know, a lot of people came from Monster Hunter World, which is like a more home console type experience.
Yeah.
And then they went to the Switch one. It's like, oh, this one's kind of different. And it's like, yeah, of course, it's on the Switch. It's like, it's going to have to be different to work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't really like that Switch. To me, I like the contrast, which is like, oh, this one's more arcadey.
Yeah.
The Switch one is more arcadey. And this one's more grounded, the Monster Hunter World. I still prefer World, but Rise and Sunbreak were a ton of fun. But for a lot of people, they're like, no, I just want the World experience. And that's kind of like what they're getting with Wilds. Wilds is the follow-up of Monster Hunter World.
Okay.
And they've just elevated everything to the nth degree. The map is way bigger. The turf wars are more cinematic. And there's a million different things that you can interact with on the map. Like you can still drop rocks on monsters and do all of these crazy shenanigans. Mm-hmm. There's been massive changes to pretty much all of the weapons. Like the weapon that I play, the Gunlance, was so different that I couldn't even understand what combos I could do with it now. I had to spend like a decent chunk of time just to understand how the weapon works. Uh-huh. They changed the mounting system when you mount monsters to deal damage and all of that stuff. They changed so much, and it feels like it really is the next step in the evolution. Now, there's still a couple of things that I'm not a fan of. And by the way, it's important to mention, I should have mentioned this earlier. I did get paid by Capcom to go there. As in, they paid for my traveling expenses. In the interest,
100% shill of the gamer.
People are going to call me a shill. Now, I did have an opportunity if I wanted to just be like, okay, you can either do a sponsorship, and then we will tell you what videos we want you to make,
Mm-hmm.
or we can pay for your traveling expenses and you can do whatever the fuck you want. Because fundamentally, I was going to cover Monster Hunter no matter what because that's my main game. So they know they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't take too many sponsorships. So if Capcom wants to pay for my trip, I'll accept that. But yeah, that was the deal. If people want to know, it was about €1,500, give or take, for my trip and lodging. And I believe that the price of a ticket equivalent to what they gave me to be around the show would be like 200 something euros. So about €1,700. I like to be completely upfront about this shit. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if somebody thinks that I'm biased because that's too bad. But anyway, like I was saying, there were a couple of things that I didn't like, which was there's this thing with the Sacred Mount where you can get on your mount and you can sharpen your weapon. And this is something that I also criticized in Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak, because it makes sharpening your weapon too easy. Because at any point in time, you can just like, hey, mount. Mount comes over, you get on the mount, and then the monster can't catch up to you. So just like running laps around the monster while you're casually sharpening your weapon and eating food if you need to, and drinking your health potions. And it's like, bro, it's so free. It's way too free that it's not fair. That's like my biggest complaint. But I believe that maybe they'll have monsters further ahead in the game that will like be able to dismount you, yank you off your mount, maybe even trigger a cooldown or something like that.
Yeah.
So at that point, I think my opinion on that might change. But if it remains the way that it is, that is probably my biggest criticism that I have.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people that were concerned about like frame rates and crashes. And I'm like, I think this build is way too early to be judging it based on that.
Yeah.
The game's coming out in 2025. We don't even know when.
I just want to say, unless the build that you were playing on is the final build, which it won't be, it's way too early for that.
No.
It's gonna have issues, right? Because optimization is the thing they do lost.
Yeah, the game's been in development, I believe, for like 5 years.
Wow.
And this build would have had to be really early because of the fact that, when they put a build like this, they have to cut a bunch of content in the eventuality that somebody like steals it or something off of the show floor, and then they can start spoiling monsters and all this. Okay, we know this monster's there and this monster, so they have to cut a bunch of content out. And I was actually watching a video from Masaru Sakurai, the guy who makes Smash Brothers, about the whole thing of making demos and whatnot, because I was researching the topic. And you have to basically make two branches of the game, and then you have to polish both of them, and you have the time that you spend working on your demo is time that you're not spending working on the main one. And that's kind of like a problem. So it doesn't surprise me that this is not the most polished build. Like, it even crashed on my stream. I streamed it live from Gamescom and it crashed, and I was like, oh, this is great, I get more gameplay time, because you have a limit of like 30 minutes whenever and because mine crashed, I got extra time. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go.
All right,
but I don't
No.
Go ahead.
Go. I just wanted to know, from an impressions standpoint, would you say that for a brand new person to Monster Hunter, this would be a good jumping point?
Yep.
This would be a nice place to start.
100%. Yep. Because Monster Hunter games work kind of like Final Fantasy in terms of continuity. So you can just jump into any of them. It doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. It doesn't really matter, because each of them is going to have like their own self-contained story. Not that the story is even that important, but they are working on making it more meaningful. And I saw the very beginning of the game, which was something that we weren't allowed to record or show to avoid spoilers, and the story that the story beats and the cutscenes and the stuff that they're working with, it feels like they're really putting a little bit of extra emphasis on story this time around, which I know that for some hunters that's actually a bad thing, but you can skip the cutscenes, so there you go.
Nice.
I don't know if you can skip them in multiplayer though, because they haven't really cleared that stuff up, but Monster Hunter Wilds is definitely going to be a fantastic jumping point, and even beyond just the jumping point, I think it's going to be the definitive Monster Hunter for quite some time to come, because they've poured a lot of work into it, and it just plays really good.
Hey, bro, that's good, but
it is.
There is some bad news with Monster Hunter. It's drama, boys. We have not forgotten about the drama segment.
Always drama
of this podcast. Although we did have to get the good stuff out of the way. Now we can talk about the actual drama that is actually not drama, but is drama, because some people didn't understand how Monster Hunter works or how the fans want to interact with it. Rurikhan, will you just quickly give us a quick refresher of what happened here?
So I'm going to just tell you what Capcom has done, and I want to get your raw reactions to it as someone that doesn't play Monster Hunter, right?
Yeah.
So Capcom went on stage and said, by the way, armor is no longer limited. Anybody can use any armor. So that means that if you are playing a male character, you can use female armor sets, and if you are playing a female character, you can use male armor sets. How do you feel about this?
From a gameplay perspective, I love it. And the reason for it is I have long been a critic of any sort of race lock or gender lock on video games, because I feel like unless your game is going to be super optimized into that, right? I feel like, why are you limiting my options? So games, for example, I remember the old Dragon Age Origins. There were certain races that could only be certain classes. And sometimes you wanted to be a specific race, but you can't be that class if you're that race. That should feel terrible, right? It just doesn't feel good. And I can imagine in a game that is pretty much about gearing and armor, if you have a piece of gear that drops for your character, but it's now the opposite gender of what you are, that's going to feel terrible. That's
not really how it works in Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter, you craft all of the gear, so you get to choose if you get like what the armor looks like.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening with Monster Hunter is that ever since I kind of became known in the Monster Hunter community, one of the things that I've noticed is whenever they would add a new monster into the game, which they usually support these games for like a couple of months after release, even though this isn't a traditional live service, because their intention is like, we release the game, we give you guys a couple of more monsters for like a year or so, and then we make a huge expansion, which is what we call traditional G rank or ultimate expansion. Now they're coming up with different names for it, but it's like a massive expansion. You're talking like minimum 100 hours of additional gameplay.
Yeah.
And if you're someone that actually likes playing the game a ton, you can get like from 500 to 1,000 more hours of playtime.
Oh, okay.
These are usually the Monster Hunter expansions, right? So they release the game, support it for like a year, release an expansion, support that for like a year by adding new monsters, and then okay guys, it's done. We're going to work on the next one now, which to me is so much better than what a lot of people are trying to do with live services like Destiny, where they give you like, oh, here's some crumbs of content.
Destiny is like
Here
the
you go.
worst live
Here's a
service
couple
game
of
out
fucking
there, man.
crumbs. Yeah, here's a couple of crumbs for you peasants to go grind for like 100 hours, you know, and they're going to charge you, and then they're going to charge you separately for the fucking dungeons and whatnot. It's like, no. That's not what we do in Monster Hunter. But anyway, so whenever I would see them release a new monster, each monster comes with like its new armor set, because that's the way that it works. You hunt the monster and you craft the armor set of that monster.
Yeah.
It would always be a comment that I would get in my comment section. Usually it would be from the ladies.
Yeah.
The ladies would be like, oh man, I don't want to wear skimpy armor.
Oh, right.
I want to wear the big fatty armor that you guys get. And sometimes it would be the guys where it's like, man, that hat that they put on the female armor, it's not even something where it's like, oh, it's such a female hat or something. It's just a cool looking hat that the female armor got. And the male hunters would be like, shit, I want to wear that hat or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, these would just not be things that they would be able to do. So the community, I've seen thousands upon thousands of comments of people being like, I want to wear the other guy's armor. I want to wear this armor. And Capcom was just like, all right,
fine.
There's no more armor locks. Do whatever the fuck you want. There you go. And it's like, at the end of the day, if somebody wants to go hunting as a male hunter with a midriff, why not? I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it's your game. Do whatever you want with it.
Exactly.
But so, I feel like, especially since the armor is still, I'm assuming the male and the female armor will have the exact same stats, the exact same.
Yeah, exact same stats.
Well, then, I think more armor options, right? Fundamentally, because you do sometimes get, I would not run around with midriff, but you do sometimes get, for example, shoulders can sometimes look better, say, on the female, right? And then it's like, damn, I like this outfit. I like the colors. I just really don't like these shoulders.
And there's massive fashion in this game because you have a layered armor set, which is essentially the same as transmogging in World of Warcraft. So you have that system in Monster Hunter. So that's usually what people end up doing in the end game as well. They go and hunt specific monsters to be able to craft a layered version of their armor set so that they can mix and match different looks and whatnot and just really make their hunters their own, which, a lot of people spend hours on that, and just being able to equip armors from both genders just makes sense.
I think, in my opinion, from looking at this drama right from the outside, right? Because I don't know anything about this game. And I tend not to talk about games that I don't know anything about, or more importantly, that I don't care about, right? And I'll be honest, I don't care about Monster Hunter, right? It's not my type of game. You know, it's not.
I'm ending this podcast right now.
I might give it a go because I would.
You will.
Here's the thing: 6 months ago, if you asked me anything about Elden Ring, I would have been like, I don't care about this game. It's not my type of game, right? And now I care very much about Elden Ring and about what happens in Elden Ring. So, you know, it is one of those things. It's just not a game that I've played yet, so I'm not entirely. But I've seen the drama, and I didn't understand it. So thank you for explaining that to me. But
so there's more drama though.
But I just want to say on the gear lock thing, the drama started with and sadly, I think the problem with Monster Hunter Wilds here is they got dragged into the culture war without necessarily wanting to be part of the culture war. And it was an example of friendly fire, to be quite frank, right? And the people that did it originally, Grums, for example, who was one of the big voices who called this out, he very quickly came out and said, okay, wait, guys, this was wrong. I understand why Capcom did this. Never mind. Let's move on. This isn't a big deal. Of course, you're always going to get your guys to go, no, this is a big deal, right? But so he did say, never mind, it's good. And that is going to happen.
Keeping
People
up with
mistake,
that,
right?
you have to watch this. You have to look at this real quick. I linked you a tweet.
All right.
I want you to look at that tweet real quick.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing this as well. I didn't understand at all what this was about, but it is some guy that wears blue hair. Naomi, I will give this to you so you can show the audience this.
Yeah. So what do you think about that gentleman over there in that picture?
He looks nice.
Yeah.
He looks like a nice guy.
That's Jono. He is the European Monster Hunter community manager.
All right.
But because of the fact that he has a piece of his hair painted blue, people are like painting him as like, oh my God, I can't believe that Capcom would have, these people up ahead. And the funny thing is, this guy that posted this, he's a VTuber, and his VTuber avatar had blue hair.
Of course.
But it's like, I basically just like quoted him. I was like, listen, you don't understand. Jono could fold you like a lawn chair because, listen, Jono is a giant. He's tall. He's really tall, and he's buff. It was like he could just like fold you. The first time I saw Jono on screen, right? I thought he was going to be like a scrawny looking dude.
Yeah.
And then when I met him when I went to the UK, I was like looking at him like this. I was like, holy crap. How's the weather up there?
I mean, again, I will say it's one of those, we're in a very difficult time right now. That's just a fact, right? We're in a time where the culture war is heating up beyond belief, right? And the warriors of the culture war, and I do count myself among those. I mean, my second channel, Acolyte TV, is dedicated to calling this stuff out. The warriors that do this, they're gonna get things wrong, right? And they're gonna call things out, and you're gonna get grifters that want to be part of it, so they're gonna make shit up as they go. The blue hair thing, I think in today's day and age, if you aren't part of the woke mob, you should probably not make your hair blue because it's a nightmare. Because it's just become a thing, right? Most of these developers that cause all of these problems have blue hair, and so now it's become a thing. But the guy looks like a really nice guy based on just his facial features. He looks like a nice guy. He looks like a pretty decent guy.
Yeah.
So I think this is just another example of being caught up in one of what I would consider to be one of the most important wars of the gaming industry. because we are trying to get the politics out of our games, right? We're trying to remove people bashing and forcing developers into nonsense when all we want is good games. No one really cares about any of this. And then you have people like Capcom that's literally just over here making a game about killing monsters. They're suddenly part of this thing. Like, fam, we don't give a shit.
You know that when World came out, there are actually articles by gaming journalists talking about like, oh, I can't believe this representation of colonialism. We're moving in and murdering all of these wonderful creatures. And it's like, the thing that really bothered me about that is like, you have no understanding of Monster Hunter lore whatsoever, because the fundamental principles of hunting in Monster Hunter is to preserve balance.
Yeah.
So they purposefully go out of, I mean, obviously as a gameplay mechanic, I'm going to kill 10 of this monster to make my funny hat. But from a lore perspective, the lore says that like, you only really hunt creatures that are too dangerous and are destabilizing the balance of nature. Because ultimately, one of the principles of the guild is balance.
Yeah.
And it's funny to see people come up with like, just themes of colonialism and everything is bad and blah, blah. It's like, all right, whatever you say.
People, the problem is, right, the culture war. And this is one of the reasons why I'm always very careful to not get too involved. I do my research, I make my videos, but I don't get too involved, because the problem is the same way the woke mob, right, is completely infected with this nonsense and everything becomes a problem. It can happen on the other side as well, right?
It happens on both sides. Yeah. There's bad actors on both sides, 100%.
And not just bad actors, it's people that your brain gets so infected with this stuff that you start seeing it everywhere. So suddenly you see a guy that has blue hair that just had the blue hair because maybe he lost a bet, or maybe he decided it looked cool, or he wanted to do something special for fucking Gamescom.
I think he likes it.
Right?
Yeah. He just likes it.
But he decided he wants to do something special for Gamescom. And now he is suddenly the poster child for everything that's wrong with Capcom, right? So it's sort of like sometimes you just have to take a step back, relax a little bit, and say, okay, you know what? Has this guy ever said anything against us? Is this guy in any way, shape, or form?
And the interesting thing is that if you follow up on that situation, you'll find that pretty much everybody that's ever interacted with him, like, oh, he's such a nice guy, such a chill dude, and whatever, and he helped me out with this or helped me out with that, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty much most of the interactions people have with John.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do this because this isn't a big bit of drama, but it is part of the drama thing, so we can quickly talk about this. And we do have some War Within coming up as well, guys. But SoulAsh is another game that recently got dragged into one of these politically brained meltdowns of the mob. Now, very quick rundown here for you guys. SoulAsh is an indie game. It's a very small game. But you can see why, right? When you look at the gameplay, when you look at what the game is about, this is not a game that's ever going to have thousands of people playing it. It's one of those sort of grand strategy games kind of thing. Grand strategy generally don't have a lot of players because they're very difficult, very time-consuming. It's sort of a niche audience.
I love how I Googled SoulAsh.
Yeah.
It's the currency from Shadowlands. Every single thing that shows up is the currency from Shadowlands.
But it's SoulAsh, so one word, 2.
Oh, it's SoulAsh.
Yeah, okay. SoulAsh 2. Now, the game has inside of it. So it's the sort of thing where you have a kingdom and you fight other kingdoms and you have to rule your kingdom. But then inside of it, there's this legacy system where your character ages and dies. So your character needs children because the children becomes the rulers in your character's place. Very much like Crusader Kings. Now, what's interesting here is the developer made this entire thing, and this is a small indie company, and he only made male and female relations. Right? So you can only, as a man, only marry a woman, and as a woman, only marry a man. And then you make children, and then the children take over, and they become the rulers. Then suddenly, a subreddit, specifically the rogue-like subreddit, and this is through multiple investigations, they have basically drilled down. This entire thing started on the rogue-like subreddit, by the mods of that subreddit started rallying their fans to attack this developer and demand same-sex relationships, right? So,
bro, the developer doesn't even. There's not even a company name. It just says Artur Smiryovsky.
yep,
like
it's one dude
like it's
that's
one
just
guy.
making a game, you know, and he's having the time of his life, and suddenly he gets attacked for not having same-sex relationships in the game that isn't about relationships. Just to be like very clear, the relationships are very. I've seen some of the screenshots of the conversations that you have, dude. It's like the most rudimentary stuff you can imagine, right? It's just so that your lineage can continue. It's a nice little game mechanic, just built in there. And he's working on adding all sorts of other things like combat and more deeper economic systems and stuff of that nature. And now suddenly they're demanding that he makes same-sex relationships. And he just comes out and he's like, dudes, the system isn't that deep. I only have a couple of characters that you can technically marry with a couple of portraits. I'm not going to go and change everything just to appease you. Play the game or don't play the game. It doesn't matter. So they keep attacking him. Now it's every word in the book. He's a bigot. He's a this. He's a that. And then he posts a flag of Poland, right? And now the community loses their shit because he's a nationalist, right? He wants Polish supremacy, as if that was ever a thing. But he wants Polish supremacy. And he eventually, he explains the flag was because of the suffering of his ancestors, and that the attacks from these left-wing nutcases was nothing compared to that. So he's fine, right? He doesn't care. And finally, it reaches a point where the demands just get too much, and he literally just goes, no, I will not add this. Now it's become a thing of principle, right?
Yeah.
He just will not do this because they keep bullying him. And then they just go away. They just leave.
So, I've always been of the opinion when it comes to this stuff that it's like, what is the developer's intent? That's all I care about.
Yeah.
Like if the developer wants to make a game about homosexual relationships and just have a ton of those, transsexual characters, do all of that stuff, that's fine.
Do your thing. It's your game.
If the developer doesn't want to do it, that's fine too.
Yeah.
If a developer wants to support both, which is usually what BioWare does, that's fine too.
Do your thing.
It's like,
it's your game.
It doesn't matter to me. Yeah, exactly. Like, listen, there seems to be this perception that, people care deeply about this, but just look at the success of Baldur's Gate 3. You can bang every character in that game.
No one gives a shit.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
No one gives a shit.
Like I said, there was one point where I was like covered in viscera from monsters and Gale comes up, hey, giggity. And I was like, Gale, not now.
Dude, Gale is the most horny character in that game, man. Like, holy
dude,
crap.
100%. I think it was actually glitched for a while because he was maybe a little bit too horny. He's like, bro, I had sex with the goddess of magic. You don't understand. It's like, okay, bro, tone it down.
Yeah. You just chill and fucking eat your epics. It's fine. But
it's like I said, to me, it's all about what does the developer want to do.
Yeah.
No developer should be forced to do something that they don't want to do.
No.
If they don't want to have homosexual relationships in their game, they don't have to. If they do want it, they should totally be allowed to. It's like, this isn't a big deal.
Yeah. Live your life, but
people are going to do what people are going to do.
For me, the funniest thing about this is just, and you'll see with the next story, because the next story basically nails down the point. The funny thing is, this group is very tiny. Because once they realized that the developer wasn't going to cave, they had nothing left.
They gave up.
Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing left. The developer won't cave, and we're not a big enough group to really hurt the game sales of this in any way, shape, or form. Right? And so, if you look at the game, it didn't get a massive spike of players after this, but it also lost no players. It just stuck with the same 86 players that's playing it consistently because it's grand strategy. It's never going to be big. This guy should probably not. Probably just a guy that loves grand strategy, right? But all right, so before we get into the War Within, very quickly, we need to talk about this Rurikhan. Did you know, sir, that it is your fault and my fault that the Acolyte failed.
I'm proud of it if it's my fault. I think I did a good thing.
Yeah, but you have to understand, right? The show was brilliant. The show was the next iteration of Star Wars storytelling. I tried to watch the first episode. It did not stick. But the show was absolutely brilliant. The acting was brilliant. The script was brilliant. The music was brilliant. The setting was brilliant. Everything was brilliant.
Let me just give you an example of something that I saw from that show that I was like, oh, okay. Which was when I think it's the leading actress, she attacks somebody and like draws blood or whatever.
Yeah.
And her lightsaber magically changes color to red. And I was like, oh, that's how that works. Huh.
That's new lore.
Funny that. I could swear that you have to take the kyber crystal out and then pour your own corrupted blood into it. Yep. And then you put the kyber crystal back into the lightsaber. And then it becomes red. I could swear that's how it works. Because otherwise, please explain to me how it was that Anakin butchered God knows how many younglings, but his lightsaber was still blue.
No, but it's new lore.
I think the problem was those younglings had to go. The Force willed it. Yeah. The Force said, "No, these younglings, they gotta go."
Kids,
so
man.
It was not a bad act, right? It's just like Anakin. He was commanded by the Force, so Anakin knew I'm in the right. This is why my lightsaber.
But you see, this is what happens when you have a bunch of people that don't know anything about Star Wars. But none of that is why the show failed. The show also actually had a massive audience. Apparently, they just. The problem, the reason, and this is according to the lead actress of the show, just to be clear, the reason the show failed was because a small group of haters were saying mean things about the show.
I said nothing about the show.
But that's the thing, right? This is the.
How's this my fault?
Dude, but here's the thing: the mental disconnect from these people is insane. If the show was actually good and there were these millions of people everywhere that wanted to watch, they've had now for the last 3 weeks a petition out to try and bring a second season because Disney's cancelled the show. Disney's like, nah, fuck that. We're losing way too much money on the show. They're learning that Disney actually doesn't have any of these principles that they say they have, and they just care about fucking money. But here's the funny thing, right? Disney cancels the show, and they immediately start a petition to bring the show back. It takes them almost 2 weeks to get 50,000 signatures. They finally hit the 50,000 mark. They're still not at 75,000 signatures. That's not enough to make a show, right? There is no audience for this, but the blame always has to be someone else's. It's like children who can't take the blame for anything. They just always have to blame someone else. Here's the news flash for everyone that sort of wants to blame a review bombing or wants to blame the audience being mean for the failure of games or movies. Here's what you need to understand. If there was a massive audience enjoying your content, review bombing would do fuck all to make that not be the reality. Review bombing and mean tweets would not remove that audience because the audience is watching the show and enjoying the show. So they don't give a shit about what people are saying.
Monster Hunter Monster Hunter Iceborne survived 2 review bombs. And these review bombs came because developers put out additional content that wasn't planned. And some people are like, it's too hard. I'm going to review bomb it now.
Yep.
And it survived it because everybody else was like, nah, bro, I'm too busy playing the game. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, but this is just fundamentally another example of just the most bonkers thing, bro. Okay, so Black Myth Wukong, right? It is currently one of the largest games that's come out. It should be noted. Not from the West, right? The fans are now being blamed, right, for actually being in bed with Chinese nationalists. So it's suddenly all the gamergaters, right, that is anti-communism is somehow in bed with the Chinese nationalist communists.
I always thought that Xi Jinping was a bro, man. always thought that Winnie the Pooh, man, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's my man. He's my bro.
Us, the guys that want freedom, that don't want censorship, that want capitalism, we're in bed with the Chinese nationalists to make Black Myth Wukong a success.
I was already going to play the game. You don't have to convince me anymore. Bro, that's the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, no, gamers want cool games.
Yeah.
You play as a monkey that beats up bosses. That sounds like hella fun.
Yeah,
like, what
like
the fuck
cool
do you
game,
mean?
man.
I don't give a fuck.
But yeah, apparently we're closeted communists, actually. That's why we want Black Myth Wukong to be good.
Oh.
But then it goes further, bro. Like the depths of these guys are just beyond me. Concord's epic failure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Concord is losing. PlayStation has said that Concord's failure is going to cost them $200 million. Right? That they're now losing on this. So Concord is not doing well. And everyone knows why. Because when you log into that game, there's not a single character that looks interesting to play. Every single one of the characters have these bizarre fucking looks to them. You can play as a fat chick for some reason.
I don't even care about their looks. Like the thing to me is I keep hearing people say about, oh, you guys are bigots. You keep saying that the characters are ugly. But the only thing that I've said from the moment that I saw the very first reveal, well, the first reveal trailer was actually just images of a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
So I was super excited because I like sci-fi games like No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous. I thought it was going to be something like that. And I was like, holy shit, I'm actually super hyped. This looks amazing. But then when they actually showed the thing that looked kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy from Wish.
Yeah.
I was looking at it and I was looking at each of the characters because usually when you're looking at a hero-based shooter, you're like, okay, what character do I see myself playing as? And if I think, for instance, about Overwatch, just for like a second, I instantly think, obviously I want to play as Torbjorn because he's a badass looking dwarf. Yeah. Even though he's got a play style that it's not my favorite because he's got the turrets and shit. But it's like, yeah, I want to play Torbjorn. I'm gonna main Torbjorn. It's like the coolest looking character in there. But then it's like, also I can instantly see, man, I want to play Soldier 76. What a badass, like a war veteran
Reinhardt,
with a machine gun. Let's fucking go. Reinhardt was also another one. I was like, hells yeah, I want to play the dude with a big fucking shield and a hammer. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
That looks
100%.
Cool.
Yeah, I instantly looked at all these characters. Then it was also like, Lucio sounds like a lot of fun. He's Brazilian. Like, that's badass. Yeah, I want to play Lucio too.
Just so he's got a fucking difficult play style, but yeah.
Yeah, I instantly identified like 4 characters that I would love to play as, and I played plenty of others. Like I also played as Mercy every now and then. Yeah. I didn't really like Tracer's playstyle, but I played a fuck ton of Farah because she's got the rocket launcher, and I was like, fuck yeah, just like playing Quake. Yeah, give me that. And then when I was looking at this,
I think it was Hanzo, the guy with the bow.
Hanzo. Yeah. Ryo agate kyokuro.
I literally played him just for that.
So that you could just wall hack bow. Yeah, let's go. But there's a bunch of characters that I instantly knew that I wanted to play. And then I was looking at Concord during the reveal, and I was like, well, I don't want to play as Green Alien Dude. I also don't want to play as Red Alien Dude. Also, what the fuck is wrong with his head?
Yep.
And I was looking at the other characters, and there's not a single character that I want to play as.
Yeah. But it's
immediately like you have a hero-based shooter, and there's not a single character that I personally want to play.
Yeah.
And the thing isn't even about like, oh, I think the characters are ugly. It's like, no, I just don't resonate with them. I just don't think that they look cool.
Well,
it's not about being ugly or not. It's about cool. These characters don't look cool to me personally.
But you see, the problem is it's hero-based shooters live and die by the fantasy of the heroes.
Exactly.
Because the gameplay is the same in every single hero-based shooter. There's no difference in gameplay. So it's all about the characters that you're going to be playing with.
Which is, in a way, this is the reason why they actually had the good idea of like having, we're going to have these cinematics. Because a lot of people were making fun of those cinematics. But if you think back to Overwatch, those cinematics were fucking massive. Like you get, for instance, the what was his name? Kenji, the sword guy.
Yeah.
Kenji or Kenshi?
Yes,
I forget.
I can't remember.
Genji.
Yeah.
And you have the one with him and Hanzo, and both of them interacting because they're brothers and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And that cinematic was badass as fuck. I don't even play those characters, but that cinematic was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, having the cinematics is awesome. The problem is you're going to make cinematics about these lame characters that nobody actually cares about.
Yeah, but it's representation, Rurikhan. Some fat girl in New York wants to play as the fat girl in the game. I'm a fat dude in South Africa. I don't want to play a fat guy in a game. Like, what are you talking about? Every 20 meters I have to sit down and catch my fucking breath? What are you talking? That is not a fantasy I want to play as.
I will play as a fat dwarf any day of the week, but there's no fat dwarves in Concord. If there was a fat dwarf in Concord, I'd play that.
Yeah,
100%.
But the thing for me is, right, I genuinely, I'm doing so much research on this. The problem is there's no actual studies on this. But I fundamentally don't believe that people actually want representation in video games. I don't believe that people want to play as themselves in a video game. I think people want to play fantasy in a video game. They want the fantasy of whatever the fantasy might be. In Witcher 3, the fantasy is you are Geralt and a renowned monster hunter. And it is fucking awesome. In Cyberpunk, you're playing as V, a street rat or a corpo. And that is the fantasy that you're playing as. In Monster Hunter, you make a fantasy that fits the world, right? Because that's what it's all about. It's not about representation. You know, I don't want to play a fat guy that you know has minus fitness stats because he's too fat. It's actually one of the funny things about Dragon's Dogma.
Negative fitness stats.
You know, it's sort of like
less lung capacity.
Yeah. Can only run for like 10 meters before he has to sit down.
Higher damage absorption though. More hit points.
Wasn't it Dragon's Dogma that had this? The heavier your characters, the more they can carry, but also like the slower they move.
Yeah,
or something?
it was Dragon's Dogma. Yeah. Your stamina runs out faster, but you can carry heavier things.
If you're fat, because that's basically what it would be, right? So I don't believe gamers actually give a shit about representation, and this is what's killing Concord. They went and they made a bunch of characters that they were thinking, right, how can we appeal to every possible group in this game? How can we appeal to every possible... And that's why all of their characters also have pronouns. And everyone just rolls their eyes.
I don't care.
And they're like, bro...
I don't care about the pronouns. I don't care.
The reason I care about the pronouns is it tells me what your politics were going into it, right? So if the pronouns are just a thing, that would be one thing. But we know why pronouns in games exist. I know at least. And I don't blame people for not giving a shit, but I do give a shit because it tells me exactly it tells me exactly what you wanted to achieve with this. It tells me that you had this political bend, and that is why you added these pronouns. The game would have been just as shit if you didn't have the pronouns, right? They may actually have done a little bit better because once I see the pronouns, I go, okay, so how many more political little things are waiting for me? I mean, I'm just done. You know, I'm like, dude, I don't want to play a game where I'm being preached that. I don't want to play a game where I'm being told, oh, you know what? Communism is good. It's like, bro, shut the fuck up. Let me just play. I just want to shoot things. I thought this was a game about shooting things, and now I have politics. I don't understand this. But I mean, different people have different things that they care about. For me, the only reason I think of the pronouns is because it signals to me why you made the game the way that you did. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm busy working on my own video game. Not at any point in time have I thought about adding pronouns to the game. And the reason for it is, my immediate thought is, the player will probably decide this for them fucking selves. That's the whole point, right? They're the ones playing the game. They may as well choose what they want to do with the game. It's got nothing to do with me. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird, man. But yeah, that's the...
Yeah, it's like I'm saying. I to me, it doesn't bother me that they put pronouns in there. It's whatever. What bothers me is that like, I look at those characters, I'm like, there's not a single character that I'm interested in playing. They just don't seem like appealing characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dude, I don't know. It is what it is. Different people will like different things. No one liked Concord, and that's because Black Myth Wukong is too successful.
The numbers on it are very weird though. The fact that it didn't even crack 1,000 concurrents, that's freaking crazy.
People were thinking that it's actually broken. Steam came out and said, no, it's working as intended. It's fine.
And it's like, at this point that like if that's the amount of concurrence they have, that's completely not sustainable. Like I feel bad. And I even saw an article from like PC Gamer saying like all people are too quick to dance in games' graves and whatnot. It's like, I'm not dancing. I didn't wish this upon them. Like, it just happened. And obviously if I'm going to advise my audience, and my audience was to ask me, hey, Rurikhan, should I play Concord? Fuck no, because that game's going to die.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, it sucks, but it is what it is. Yep. That game's not going to last very long because it's supposed to be a live service game. And here's the thing. I believe I actually praised their business model here on this very show because I appreciate the fact that they're like, oh, no, we're going to make it. We're going to sell it for 40 bones, and we're not going to nickel and dime you. And I was like, oh, that's actually really, really good. Unfortunately, you just haven't really made a game that I actually want to play. But hey, at least I'll tell you what, no, double thumbs up for your business model, which is interesting because a lot of people
there's no one to nickel and dime.
No, but what I mean is a lot of people are complaining that the biggest problem with the game is that it's not free to play. And I was like, no, I don't think that's the problem. I think their business model is actually really good and very much pro-consumer. The problem is that nobody wants to play the game, period.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, would it have a little bit more players if it was free to play? Yes, because it's a free game. But you can extrapolate from the numbers that it's not going to be that much more. The game isn't suddenly on free to play going to jump over to 100,000 players. It's just not going to happen.
It's not happening.
And even if they were to go free to play now, the damage has been done, right? Most people have moved on.
But I have seen what you're talking about, I feel like, in social media of people being upset and saying that, like, it's Wukong's fault. And it's like, bro, you understand these are completely different genres, completely different video games. And what you are saying makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, but this
makes no sense whatsoever.
Dude, remember when we had this insane conversation about me hating game journalists, and you don't really share that opinion.
No, not again. What I said is not that I don't share your opinion; is that I don't think all of them are bad. That's what
that's right.
I don't think exactly all of them. I don't think they're all bad. I think that there are some good game journalists out there. I just think the problem is that the bad ones give the good ones a bad name, and therefore people end up generalizing like you, which is like, fuck them all.
Yeah, well,
and I just don't agree with that.
It just gives more strength here because it comes from journalists who go, is Concord actually just failing because of bad timing? Because Black Myth Wukong came out and there's no players to play Concord. And it's like, do you really? What do you think the overlap between Concord Euro shooters and Black Myth Wukong is going to be? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I can imagine everybody that plays Overwatch and Valorant and whatever other hero shooters are in vogue right now. I can just imagine all of them stopped playing their hero shooter to gather up with the Chinese nationalists and go play Black Myth Wukong. 100%.
I mean, you even have Shroud. 100%. Shroud said that Black Myth Wukong deserves to be Game of the Year. Then Deadlock comes out, insta onto Deadlock, because that's the kind of games that he plays, right? And it's just sort of like there's very little overlap between these communities. So no, Concord is just the suffering of its own bullshit. And I, for one, am dancing on the graves of these developers.
Damn.
Because from my perspective,
harsh.
You knew that this game was going to fail. You can't say that you didn't. How? Because we told you not to do this. You continued to do it. You criticized the gamers. You called out the gamers. You told us not to play the game if we're bigots because you decided some new fucking definition for bigotry. And now you're blaming us for the game not doing well. It's like, bro, pack your bags and leave. We don't need you. And before people go, but there must be some good developers that worked on it as well. Yeah, and guess what? They will find other jobs.
I'm sure there's talented developers there, because one of the things that I would say is that I think the art style looks good.
Art style is good. But the gameplay is even solid. People that have played it said
I don't know. I haven't played it.
But fundamentally,
here's an interesting thing. Yeah? I actually do have a review code for it at different stages.
But okay.
I feel so bad.
Away from the drama and onto, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. Yeah?
Wait.
Yeah?
Away from the drama. Are we not going to talk about the Ubisoft thing, bro? Come on.
Do you want to talk about that now? I wanted to give our audience just a little bit of a break, a little bit of honey, nectar from the gods before we go back into it. But
I know what you want to do. Go ahead.
Yeah. I can't believe I said this. All right. I cannot believe I said this. But why the fuck are you guys not subscribed?
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
I
listen. You guys need to hit that subscribe button right now.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. It needs to happen. Smash your face on it if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, actually press it on your screen. Go to your screen, like,
take your screen
actually don't.
in the hands and smash the screen against your face until it goes sub.
Don't actually do that. We will not pay for your damaged monitors.
Rurikhan will absolutely pay for your damaged monitors. Did he swimming in that Monster Hunter moolah?
Oh yeah.
But all right, so Ubisoft, can you fill us in?
Didn't you want it to?
No, we'll talk about The War Within.
We will.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to finish the drama section before we get to it.
So we are doing Ubisoft.
Yeah.
So listen, I will say, and a lot of people are going to be mad with me about this, but I will say this made me fucking happy.
Yep.
I was happy when I saw the news. I literally tweeted out a tweet that was like, ha 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 ha, lol. That was the tweet. Okay. I am literally laughing, and I want you to know that I audibly laughed when I was made aware of this news. Yes, you, the person who either subscribed to Ubisoft Plus or paid $130 to play Star Wars Outlaws, I want you to know that I was specifically laughing in your face directly, okay? In your, actually, with spit coming out of my mouth
in the middle of the night, waking you up from your bed.
It was me. I was laughing. All right. I am that petty because listen, I've been no stranger to, I've made my feelings on Ubisoft perfectly clear. I feel that they are a studio that has a lot of really talented people on it, but their leadership is absolute dog shit and gives the whole talented team a bad name.
Yep.
That's not to say that everybody is talented. Whoever is balancing difficulties in this game has no talent. I'm sorry, it is what it is. As somebody that likes playing games on harder difficulties, your harder difficulty balancing is dog shit because it's not hard, it's boring.
Yeah.
But beyond that, what always really bothers me is this concept that they have is oh yeah, we're gonna charge you more to release the game, to give you early access to the game, when in reality we all know that you're not giving anybody early access, you're holding all the poor people out so that you can make the rich people feel a little bit better. And let me tell you something, as a content creator, that's actually a good thing for me. People think that oh, Rurikhan, why are you criticizing? It's this is a good thing for me because I can just buy the more expensive version, live stream it, make money off of it that will pay up for the thing that I bought. And it's actually good because more people will come and watch because of the early access tax. So for content creators, this is a good thing. Yeah. But I just don't like it as a business practice. I think it's terrible. So them chopping up their game into little bitty pieces like the hamburger DLC meme that goes around the internet, which is exactly what they did, is fucking disgusting. Yep. Right? You can have yourself a full game, or you can chop it up and it's okay, here's the poor person version of the game. Here's the poor person version that can pay a little bit extra version of the game that has one additional mission. Here's the other version of the game that's for people that are maybe middle class, where it has all of the missions. Well, not all of the missions, but it has 2 additional missions. And then here's the rich people version that has all of the missions and all of this DLC. And then here's the upper class version that is, only for the elite tier of people that now has all of the DLC. And on top of it, you also have 3 days of early access. And I was like, bro, why don't you take all those additions and shove them directly up your rectum?
Yep.
You're a piece of shit for getting yourself with these business practices. I do not like it. I do not appreciate it. I fucking hate this early access nonsense that people do, because it is not early access. That's the actual release date.
Yep.
And everybody else has to play it later.
Yep.
It's that simple. So what ended up happening with this? Yeah. What ended up happening with this is essentially Ubisoft shit the bed, and they had a game-breaking bug in the game, in the early access version of the game.
No.
That makes me so happy. It's like, oh no. And what happens is they fix the bug, but they can't fix your save. So your save is fucked, and you have to start all over again
with the poor people,
along the masses, with the poor people. You know, you've paid money to avoid the playing with the filth of gaming, right?
Yeah.
You know, the poor people that can't afford to pay $130 fucking for a video game, right?
Yep.
But turns out that you still got screwed over, and you don't actually get that early access. You get to lose everything that you've had, and that makes me happy. I want you to know specifically, the person that paid $130 or $18 per month to play Star Wars Outlaws, I want you to know that this gives me joy.
Yeah.
Okay? This gives me strength to carry on.
Dude, it warms my soul on a cold winter's morning.
It felt
beautiful.
so good to see it.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Dude,
Yeah,
I personally, and this will go into our discussion. We can probably sort of rope in the War Within discussion here as well, because they also had this early access thing.
So wait, before you jump into that, I would just like to point out, do you know how much Black Myth Wukong costs?
It's like, what, $60? $50?
Yeah, $60.
Yeah,
that's
easy. And you make money, right? They make money.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077 sold for $60. They made their money. Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3 sold for like 50, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
€50.
It's like it was like $40, and they made their money. So fundamentally,
seems like they did. Yeah.
You don't have to do all of this. People that buy into the bullshit that they must. I have an insider in Blizzard, not one of the developers, one of the more suity suits, that revealed this to me personally. The cash shop and all of the bullshit that goes around the game isn't there because they're trying to cover expenses. It isn't there because they're trying to,
100%
survive. It is 100% pure profits. That's it.
It prints money.
Yeah. I think early access is it is one of the most disgusting things in our gaming industry. And I have given up on fighting or tilting at the windmill for early access for pre-orders. I think pre-order is also a blight on our industry that should really not exist. But I understand that some people will pre-order the game because they really look forward to pre-ordering the game. And I'll be honest.
See, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Early access for pre-orders doesn't bother me as much, because at least you're not charging people more. And even if you don't want to pre-order it, you can do it 24 hours before the game releases, and it still counts as a pre-order. So basically, it's not that different from just buying the game, and you get the benefits of the pre-order. So, whatever, we can game that system.
Yeah, but what I want to say is, when it first was announced, I was very much against this, because I feel like pre-orders it's just disgusting. You're trying to FOMO people into giving you money for a game that has no reviews. No one knows what this game is going to play like. You don't release demos anymore these days, so no one has any idea until they get into the game. You're trying to FOMO them out of some cash. So on a principle level, I'm not even a fan of pre-orders, but I've given up on trying to fight that. As long as the pre-order is available for everyone that bought the game, right, early, cool. Give them the early access, because at that point we're really all just calling it early access, right? Because everyone can play 3 days early, then it's no longer really early access, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. But Blizzard did the same thing. They only attached the pre-order early access to the digital deluxe edition. So how
much was that, by the way?
Like $30 more than the actual base game.
How much does the expansion cost? 40?
It's like 50, I think $50. So it's $80 for the...
So $80 for proper access.
Yeah.
Does it at least come with game time?
Yeah, it comes with 1 month of game time.
It does?
Yeah. Comes with one.
Oh, I thought it didn't.
But the thing is,
it comes with a month of game time.
The argument around the 1 month game time, I think, is also very particularly and strategically put there by Blizzard to give players who want to run Shoal Team some ammunition. And here's why.
Yeah.
That game time included doesn't matter. If you look at when the game launched, it didn't launch on the 1st of the month or before people could cancel their sub so that they don't have to pay $15 so that
the sub is already
they're already paying the sub for this month, and now they have to pay an extra $30 for the game. So yes, next month's sub is now free, but that doesn't mean that they're saving money on this purchase, because most people are buying this game not by money that they saved up, but by the money that they have left over at the end of the month. So it doesn't really, it doesn't factor in. You can't do that kind of math. That is like goal math going, I bought everything I bought today for $1,000 was 50% off, so I saved like $1,000. No, you didn't. You paid $1,000. You didn't save shit. What are you talking about? That's like the weirdest math you could do in your head that just does not speak.
That was a very sexist comment, by the way, Acolyte.
Dude, it's goals that told me that that's goal math, so I'm just trusting them.
Listen, just in the odd event that my wife would watch this podcast, honey, I do not agree with him, okay? I don't want to be sleeping on the couch, bro.
Rurikhan this to me in private.
No, I never said such thing.
But no, fundamentally, it's one of those bonkers things that you can't do math that way. That's not how math.
Yeah, it's not how, but it is how people expect you to do math. Like, right, you go up to, say, Amazon and you see something that's on discount and you're like, oh my God, this thing costs $500, but it used to cost $700. So if I buy this, I'm actually like saving $200. Like, no, you're spending $500.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
You're saving nothing. Yes. You would have spent $700. You're now spending $500. You're not saving shit. So
it's just they've just lowered your to your anchoring price.
Yeah,
your anchored price.
Yeah, they just and usually that's exactly what it is. You list something much higher and then you lower it so that you have that anchor price now. And it's just it's a sales tactic. That's all it is. And this is what this was as well. But okay, so enough about the BS early access.
The bad.
I will talk a little bit, and I will say I think War Within is brilliant. I've been playing it now since
how many hours?
Tuesday. I only play it during stream, and I stream about. I'm busy in the evening, so I have to stop streaming a bit earlier. But I think I'm 15 or 16 hours into it now, and I'm having the time of my life. Like,
comparing it to all the other expansions you've ever played, where does it rank right now?
I would say, because we're not yet in the first patch, it's very difficult to rank it as well as Legion. But I will
just
say
like
it's close
the leveling experience, close to Legion.
Legion, bro. Like,
was Legion like a good one? Because I barely remember.
Yeah, Legion was a breath of fresh air for World of Warcraft. I mean,
was that the one that had the class halls?
Yeah. It's the class order halls.
Okay.
Now this one, dude, it's phenomenal. Last night I spent 45 minutes doing a quest where I barely had to kill anything. Most of it was just detective work, like running around looking for clues, and then finding out more about the world. And then the twist at the end of that quest line was like, what? Dude, I did not expect this. So the story writing is a hell of a lot better. The questing experience is a hell of a lot better. The world design is super amazing. I've truly been having the time of my life playing this new expansion. It genuinely feels like, I'm not going to sit here and say that you should absolutely now buy the game. This is now the time to get into WoW. Because this is not the first time that Blizzard have been able to nail the base expansion version, right? The real test will come patch 1. Like, that first patch will be the real test, because that's usually where the bad expansions start to falter. BFA, patch 1 was where people went, what the hell is this? Shadowlands patch 1 was where people went.
No, Shadowlands, I was in the leveling experience. I was like, bro, this is some dog shit. And people are, this is the best leveling experience. I was like, bro, you have no fucking standards. I'm sorry, man. I feel sorry for you, but like, it was terrible.
I want to know if I wouldn't say Shadowlands had the best leveling experience, but it wasn't terrible for me.
Terrible.
It was more like,
I hated it.
It was more like, I expected a little bit more, especially considering BFA's leveling experience and how good that was. But I kind of understood.
Yeah, BFA's was actually okay.
Yeah,
leveling experience in BFA was actually okay.
Yeah.
I think I had fun. The leveling there was just the systems that then just end up kicking me out of the game because it's just a bunch of dog shit.
Yeah.
Like the way that they still have that stupid fucking vault, bro. Fuck that vault. That vault's a piece of shit.
I think the vault.
You know what's in the vault? A fucking turd is in the vault every fucking time you go in there. That's.
But
what's
I think
there.
the vault has gotten a lot better because the vault now actually drops currency.
It's the same fucking shit.
No, the vault now does actually drop currency. So if you don't want any of the items, you can take the currency and then you can just buy stuff that you need. Like you can buy the items that you need with the currency.
Listen,
so
you know what I want? I want drops in my Mythic Plus. That's where I want it.
I mean, they've also fixed a lot of the Mythic Plus stuff in this expansion. I think you're now guaranteed to get gear. You just don't get as much gear, even if you fail the key. You don't get as much gear. There's still problems with the Mythic Plus. I don't know everything about the Mythic Plus system because I don't Mythic Plus. I only Quest, and I like the story. The delves.
How's the delves been? You do any delves yet?
I've done 3 delves so far. Super fun. Like the delves are what Torghast should have been. It's completely optional. The leveling difficulty is super cool. The scaling difficulty is super cool. You can actually start to sense that as you get higher, there's going to be a lot more strategy and how you want to approach certain things. There's small little gimmicks. For example, there's this one delve that I did last night where you have a candle on your head. If you drop the candle and you go outside of the light radius of the candle, you start taking this ticking debuff that lowers your health.
Take candle.
Yeah. Take candle. But then if you move, the candle burns out faster. So you lose the candle.
Yeah.
But then there's a small little trick that you can do. And the game doesn't tell you this. But there is a trick that you can do where you right-click the debuff, it drops the candle on the floor, and now you can run to your heart's content within the circle of the candle.
Okay.
Collect stuff, and then only
I've seen that. I've seen that mechanic in other games.
Yeah.
Wayfinder also has one of those.
Yeah. So it's a fun little interaction that some players will unlock. Other players will probably never learn that. But it's really fun. The other thing that's really cool that has just, in my opinion, it has moved the game forward in a massive way is companion dungeons. Being able to do dungeons with just NPCs, it feels so much more immersive because you're actually doing it.
They stole that one from 14.
Yeah. But you're doing it with questing NPCs. The NPCs that you were just questing with, they're the ones that's in the dungeon with you, trying to figure out what's going on here.
Don't you think that can be a problem for like player interactions and stuff in the future?
I don't think so because they don't offer any real challenge. They literally just offer a story experience. So anyone that wants...
Oh, so wait, it's a special dungeon type. It's not like a regular dungeon, it's a companion dungeon?
It's the regular dungeon, but it's a companion version of that dungeon. So I can't even remember if I got gear from it.
So I guess the idea is probably like if you want to do it first time around, lore, take your time.
Yeah.
You do that, and then if you want to farm that dungeon, you want to go in with players.
Yeah. Then you want to absolutely do it with players. But the thing is, now that you are doing it with questing companions, it feels so much more immersive.
They can tell stories in the dungeons, which it is pretty cool.
Remember, I was doing this one quest line now with Magni and Dagran basically for the last hour and a half. Normally, if I go into this next dungeon, I would be going in there with a bunch of random players, right? And Magni may stand at the entrance of the dungeon and
at the end.
And then at the end. Now, Magni is going to be my tank. Because Magni wants to solve this problem. And so Magni,
cool.
so it's really cool. It offers a lot of like immersion into the game.
I feel like I have to play this expansion, even if just for the story, for the dwarves. That's the only reason I want to do it.
Oh, dude, you learn so much about
Yeah, I can imagine. But like that was one of my favorite parts of Wrath of the Lich King in Howling Fjord. There was this little story quest where you actually go and you learn about the earthen and all of this shit. And I was like, holy crap. And you learn about the curse of the flesh and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite stories that I always remember because, you know, I care about the dwarves.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. So I do want to play the expansion. It's just, bro, Blizzard being such scumbags with the early access and the Diablo 4 bullshit. And just like, it just feels bad to give them money. Like, that's the worst part. You just feel dirty. Like, if you give Blizzard money, you're like, ugh, my hands smell and I can't wash away the stench.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I have already forgiven them mostly for the early access stuff because I, on principle, don't buy deluxe editions of video games. And so I had to wait. And I had a wonderful experience so far. You know, I don't even care anymore.
I've heard that they nerfed leveling afterwards too, which makes the early access pay to win.
Dude, it's an optics nightmare. Blizzard should have stealth nerfed it and never said anything. Because I understand the nerf 100%. It was bonkers. Eventually, like, I got to a point where I could pull basically the whole area as a low level and wipe everything. Just kill everything easy.
See, that's a problem that I feel like we just have with MMOs. Because, like, as you know, before I went to Gamescom, I was playing Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
The latest expansion, Dawn Trail. And I was thinking to myself, like, bro, like, I get the story, and for starters, the story of Dawn Trail, that was, oof. We can talk about that if you want, but oh man.
Rough.
But it's like, even if the story was good, it's like at some point we need to be challenged in MMOs. Like, I don't want to hear this bullshit that people always say, well, it needs to be accessible. Everybody needs to be able to play. It's like, motherfucker, I go in there. I don't have to do any rotation. I don't have to do fuck all. I can just spam one ability and kill everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, this is not engaging gameplay. Yeah. It's just not. And again, what you're describing in World of Warcraft, I could say pretty much the same thing about Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything that wasn't like a scenario quest, I don't even know why the combat is there. It might as well not even be there because I can go... Hell, I can auto-attack things to death and fucking AFK.
Yeah.
I can just leave my character there. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a shit. I'll be back and everything will be dead and I don't even have to do anything.
One thing...
It's like, I don't think that's reasonable. I just don't think that's reasonable. Yeah. And I hate this mentality that, you know, I feel like a majority of MMO players have. I was like, oh, it's fine because it's just a leveling experience. No, it's not fucking fine. It needs to be harder. It does.
Yeah.
I don't like, you have to force people to use more than one ability. This is ridiculous. It's fucking stupid.
I think.
And that's a criticism that I lob at 14 as well. Yeah. And it always was like that. It's just I was able to look past it because like, oh, but the story's so good. Except this time, they don't have the story to carry them because the story of Dawn Trail, like, look, in my opinion, I know that people will disagree. I've only played like the first half of the story, I've been told. It fucking sucks. And it ends on a fucking Disney musical, dude.
Oh, shit.
The first half of the story ends with literally a Disney musical. And I was like, what is this game? This is not the Final Fantasy XIV I've been playing for all these years.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
I mean,
yeah,
I will say it's been interesting. I think the nerf absolutely had to happen because you eventually had low level like 74s doing triple the damage of level 80s. So clearly the scaling was completely broken. And so Blizzard took a little bit long, but it was an optical nightmare. They should not have said anything. They should have just stealth nerfed it. But you do mark a clear difference in difficulty going from...
by the way, I don't think you should stealth nerf stuff. I think you have to be transparent.
Yeah, but the problem here is...
If you stealth nerf it and people find out, that is way worse.
You see, but this is where I'm sort of at now, is from an optics standpoint. Like, I fully understand why Blizzard did what they did, and they had to do it. But optically, what does this read like? It reads like we're punishing you for not getting early access.
Echo, wait a minute.
Yeah?
Let's get something straight. You understand why they did it and they had to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So explain to me what the fuck was QA doing that they have to release the full fucking game on PTRs for people to play through the whole fucking quest lines, okay? It's not enough that they spoil more than half of the fucking game because they don't want to be bothered testing it, but even after fucking spoiling it, they still haven't gotten it right? No, I don't agree. Oh, they had to do it. No, they fucked up. They fucked up big time, and you know it.
Yeah. I mean, I made a video on this. I said exactly what you just said here. The real problem here, right? But this is where you kind of have to understand there's two issues here. On the one hand, I fully understand why this nerf had to happen, right? It had to happen because it was bonkers, and it would have made the leveling experience a lot worse for everyone. Because you especially had people starting to complain towards the later parts that you can't even kill mobs because people are one-shotting them. So you can't even tag them. That's how bad it was getting, right? So it was just making everyone's experience a lot worse.
Why couldn't they figure that out?
Yeah, but this is the thing,
in the PTR.
But this is why I'm saying there's two issues here. On the one side, I fully understand why Blizzard had to do this, but this is a problem completely and wholly designed by early access, right? If you didn't have early access, this would not have been a problem because you would have nerfed everyone's leveling experience 3 days into the expansion, no questions asked. That is the problem, right? Hopefully Blizzard learns from this. Hopefully they
won't.
The thing that
listen, you want to know what Blizzard learned from this?
Yeah.
What Blizzard learned from this is that a bunch of fucking suckers are willing to, pay up. That's what they've learned. What they've learned from this is that a majority of the World of Warcraft player base are fucking pay pigs, and they get fed the slop that they get, and they fucking enjoy it.
Maybe
it's that simple. You think that a couple of months from now, these fucking pay pigs are not going to go, oh man, a fucking boost! I'm so happy! Oh, thank you, Blizzard!
No, obviously.
I can't wait to give you more money for something that you should be fixing in the game.
I mean,
oh man,
let's see.
Like I've had that discussion last year, man. Fuck those people, man. Fuck all of them.
I'll be keeping an eye out on the next expansion launch if they do this early access shenanigans again. Because if they do it again,
and they're going to spoil the fucking game all over again too. They always do this. I
do want to say though. Now I did try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. But I will say, even the thing...
No, you didn't. You watched the cinematics I saw on your streams.
No.
What do you mean?
I only watched the cinematics that Blizzard released.
You were watching the Wowhead cinematics.
No. I was only watching the cinematics that Blizzard themselves released to us, right? So the lead-up ones.
Things and what,
yeah. The ones that is meant to be watched before the expansion, like the ones that sort of give you the lore of the stuff. I didn't watch any of the cinematics. So
let me ask you.
Otherwise.
As somebody that didn't do the entirety of Dragonflight, how important is Dragonflight for this expansion?
Not really. I mean, Dragonflight explains to you the lore of the dragons, right? The early lore of where the dragons come from.
Okay, so like, what's his name? Morazon? No, it's not Morazon.
No, it gives you Deathwing, Nalfarian, where the ancient war between the dragons and the incarnates come from. And it does have a lot of Titan stuff. And obviously this new expansion really goes deep on the Titan stuff because the Earthen is absolutely tied to the Titans. So I will say...
But let's say somebody hasn't played the game in a long time and they want to jump into War Within. What lore should they consume? Have you made a video on that? That's what we need. That's the one we need, Acolyte.
I don't think you need much because they treat it as if you don't know much about the Titans, right? So they do give you a lot of backstory. Also, you have to remember, this is a part of the world that no one has ever known about. And they have no idea about the rest of us. So they don't know anything about the stuff that's happened. One good thing is you're never referred to as the champion. Yeah, you're referred to as the Outlander. Because they don't know who the fuck you are. So that's pretty decent. That's pretty cool. There's some incredible moments. A new thing. Blizzard have done a brand new thing where they've split the MSQ and the side stories from each other. So the MSQ is a lot shorter now, but a lot more pointed, right? So the MSQ literally just deals with the main storyline. There are no side stories in the MSQ. Then all of the side stories are more zone stories. Right, so there's some very cool, like, I will be honest, This is the most fun. There's even side stories that's better than the MSQ, where you play this side story and you're just like, what the hell is this? And you know that some of those side stories end on cliffhangers, where you're going to learn eventually a lot more. But for now, they're doing research and they're looking for stuff.
My biggest thing, which I almost wish someone from Blizzard's Quest department would watch this, which they won't because I keep insulting their game because it's very frustrating to be a World of Warcraft fan. It's almost as frustrating as being a Star Wars fan. It's two of my favorite franchises that I've just seen being completely, ran into the fucking ground.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if there's one thing that I would like them to do, because I don't think that the questing in Dragonflight was like the best thing ever, but I wanted to at least be given the ability to do it sequentially without having to go to Wowhead to see, what's the order in which these fucking quests line up? Not to mention that nobody in Wowhead's even talking about that because the only thing people care about is like, what's my bis? My bis.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about my bis. It's like, bro, there's more to the game than fucking bis, but everybody just cares about the goddamn bis.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to be able to, let's say if for some reason I go into the expansion late, it's like I want to be able to go sequentially through the story beats without having to look it up on a third-party website because those will have spoilers on them and shit. I just want to be able to go from the beginning to the end and see everything that they wanted to do. But I already know
I feel like you're probably going to be
like,
forced to do it this time around that way because the MSQ is very short, bro. Like the first zone, Isle of Dawn, the MSQ is maybe 2 hours, maybe 2 hours if you're just doing the MSQ. The next zone, the MSQ also pretty short. I think you can knock out the entire MSQ in probably 6 or 7 hours. The side quest is where it gets really long. Right, because they have their own storylines and it's massive storylines attached to it.
I just feel like what they're gonna do is like whenever a new zone comes out, they're like, okay, you can skip this portion, go straight to this thing, and now the story makes no fucking sense. Which is what they did in Dragonflight.
I think that's one of the reasons why they untied the MSQ from the side quests specifically so that they can go, no, here's your main storyline. You must finish this main storyline before you can start anything else. And you make it short enough to where you're not actually asking people to spend 15 hours going through the whole zone, doing a bunch of quests, only to get to max level, right? You're giving people a very quick and easy way to max level. Well, we'll have to see. That's where the first patch comes in. That's when I'll be able to give you a lot more information on that. I have to go, so I can't really... The next topic we have to do like super quick because I have to still get ready, go to the shop and get back because I have to stream The War Within.
You gotta go and go be an addict.
Yep.
Of, World of Warcraft.
I have to go stream The War Within.
So, while I was at Gamescom, I got to play 3 other games, which we will talk about briefly. There's also not a whole lot to say. I played like I think 30 minutes of 2 of them and then 1 hour of another one. So these are, however, 2 of these games are very surprising because the first one is Crimson Desert, which comes from us from Pearl Abyss, who are the same people that developed Black Desert Online. Yeah. So initially, I was like, I don't know if I'll be interested in this because they might put some dodgy monetization on it, some crazy grind. But it seems like they're just developing a single player game like we discussed on the previous episode, how, some developers from the East are like, oh, they don't want to give Western gamers single player games. That's fine. We'll do it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So Crimson Desert is actually looking pretty solid. I was very surprised because the cinematics looked pretty good. The animations looked very good. The voice acting was also surprisingly good. Even the soundtrack was somewhat surprising as I was playing the game. I was like, damn, they're really going there. This is some good shit. And then it's like, the way that you play the game, this is going to be almost, from my interpretation, it's going to be almost like Witcher meets Game of Thrones.
Okay.
But your character also does crazy wrestling moves.
Okay.
So you just like take down people to the ground and shit, and you do kicks and you do like, there's also a palm strike thing that you can do. But fundamentally, it's still like hack and slash sword and shield gameplay, but you have all of these other moves that you can do with kicks and punches and whatnot that made it super interesting. The combat felt really good. So yeah, I had a blast playing that one. That one's going to be great if you enjoy stuff like The Witcher, I feel like, because I think there's also going to be choices in the actual game, even though I only got to like fight bosses in my gameplay. But I think that the actual game will actually feature like choices that will change the way that the game pans out.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a massive open world. So I'm super excited to see what that shapes up. That's going to be in 2025. So that one looked really good. Then another one that I played, which I was also surprised because it comes from Nexon, who is, Nexon is publishing it. The people actually developing is a studio called Newpol. But the Nexon are the guys that do a bunch of live service games and have a bunch of like monetization stuff. So initially I was also like, oh man, I don't know. Is this going to be chock full of monetization as well? But again, it seems like it's just going to be a single player game, which is going to be kind of like a Souls-like, which what I would describe it as is violent Souls, because it's just like blood splattering everywhere as you're butchering people. And it seems like the whole point of the character is that he is a berserker that is just like chopping people down. Feels really good, impactful. I liked it. And that one is apparently being voiced by Ben Starr, which, if you don't know, is the guy who does Clive in Final Fantasy XVI, who I also got to meet while I was at Gamescom. I found him randomly in the business halls, took a picture with him. Really nice guy. But yeah, that was another one that I played, First Berserker Kazan. That one's also 2025. And then there's Phantom Blade Zero, which is a game that I checked out a while ago when they did like some gameplay reveal at a PlayStation showcase.
Yeah.
And Phantom Blade Zero is being developed by a Chinese developer. I think they're called S-Game, S-Game. And those guys are, once again, just an Eastern developer that goes, you guys don't want single-player game? Don't want to make single-player games for the West? We'll make them. Don't worry about it. And this is kind of like, you know, those Chinese martial arts movies where the characters are doing like all kinds of kung fu and shit?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but with weapons, so like with swords and shit, and the movement is super fast, but it has almost like a Sekiro vibe, so you can bust enemies like stagger gauges and whatnot, and then do finishing blows, and it's just a ton of fun as well. So those three games are looking really good, and there are going to be three games that are going to be coming out in 2025 that I want to play.
Oh,
for sure.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on those, and then we'll definitely be talking about them when they become a thing. It's nice to see the Eastern gaming companies really, lock in on the Western audience and, trying to give us the games that we want, right? Because fundamentally, you're right, the Western gaming audience or the Western gaming devs really don't want to do that. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I really do apologize that I have to cut this short, but I do have a schedule that I have to stick to because apparently that's what big adults do. They have schedules. And
adults.
Yeah, I have to stick to the schedule. But yeah, Rurikhan, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
My pleasure.
On the Mythic Banter podcast, wherever you watch your podcasts, we are there. Remember to hit the like if you like, dislike if you didn't, and we will see all of you in the next one. Peace.